Good on the left?
Good to go?
Good to go? Good on the right? Right, you ready? Alright. Manny, we're good to,
You're good to go?
good to go? Staff's ready? Alright. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting for November 1st, 2022. My name is Mark Clark, the mayor. I'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Pro Tem Castle? Here. Councilmember Spear?
Here.
Councilmember Johnson?
Present.
Councilmember Neal?
Present.
Councilmember Mortensen?
Here.
Councilmember Providence?
Present.
All right, next item on the agenda, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address City Council on any item that is not on the agenda or of a public hearing? If so, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mayor Clark and Council. My name is Jim Reesberg. I live at 1726 18th Avenue in Greeley. I'm here tonight to talk about information that was placed at your seat before your meeting. 1996, there was an organization formed in America called America Walks, and it was to encourage communities to be walk safe and walk friendly and teach other people how to do that. This year, AARP joined with them, and they sponsored a Colorado State Walking College. They selected 16 people from throughout the state of Colorado. We attended classes every Wednesday for 5 months. And during that time, we talked about the history of transportation, leadership skills and public policy, community organizing, walkable streets and communities, complete streets and Vision Zero, vision goals and strategic planning. And one of the things that, two of those, I was one of the 16. There were two of us from Greeley, which was remarkable because everyone else were from all different parts around the state of Colorado. Jazz Garrison, who works for United Way of Weld County, and myself. Graduation is Thursday. We put together a 3-year walk plan, and when we submitted that to AARP, we also received a grant to help put that walk plan into action. And so we created actually 2 plans. One is Greeley Walks for the health of it, and the other is Evans Walks for the health of it. And one of the sheets that you have there tonight just shows some of the things that we will be working on in our 3-year plan, because we think it's very important that walking will make you healthier, but it has a lot of other benefits as well. And we have parking issues and things where we really shouldn't. People should just park one place and walk 2 or 3 blocks. It would be good for them. They would see more of the city. They would have some time to communicate with other people. We also have today, Colorado is very high in childhood obesity. And one of our goals is to begin working with the schools so we can make sure that kids get out and get the right amount of walking that they need to stem childhood obesity, to collaborate with the other programs that are going on in our communities about walking and safety, and to work with the cities when they're designing parks and other things that we make the trails connect, that in our parks where we put in sidewalks, we also consider some benches so people can rest. We consider some exercise equipment along the way. We consider lights. Next Monday, sundown is 4:59 p.m. And so many people who like to walk at night will no longer be able to for the next 4 or 5 months because of daylight savings time, unless there's a safe place where they can walk. And you can see on that sheet some of the things that we will be working on. I've met with Ann Bess Johnson, and she's working with us, and she has talked to the city manager. She's working with the rec department. And the second sheet there is a couple of events that we have scheduled. The first one is World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims. It's a vigil that we'll have to honor those lost or injured while in vehicles, walking, biking, or rolling in the past year. That's over 55,000 people, over 6,500 pedestrians across the United States. That's at a site to be determined. I believe it will be in the Greeley area, but we would invite you to participate in that. The second one is Walk Off Evans, and that's what we have scheduled the day after Thanksgiving, thinking that would be a good opportunity to have a family community walk where they can get out, they can do some walking so they can make room for that second order of turkey and pecan pie on Friday that's still in the refrigerator left over from Thursday. And we're working on getting someone from one of the nature activists that can come in and have kind of a guided walk starting at Riverside Park, and it'd be an educational experience as well as a healthy experience. And we will be giving you more information with our 3-year plan and more things as we work it out with the City of Evans in different ways that we can participate together to make sure that walking is available, walking is safe, and we can kind of change the current climate that walking is a good idea and all people should do it more often. I just wanted to present that to you tonight, let you know that we're working behind the scenes, and in many cases, we did get a grant from AARP, so we'll be funding some of these efforts, and we just want you to know that we'll be working in Evans to get participation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else in the audience that has come forward?
Good evening. My name is Steve Teets. I'm also in Greeley. Last time I was here, I gave you some proposal for a regional system, and I was just wondering, did you get a chance to read them and what you think of the proposal? You're talking about transportation, and I would like to know, if all possible, if you had a chance. My second thing is, I'd like to read something that came to my mind. It says, right to life, right to read, constitution rights, right to privacy, right to work. And that came from an employment poster from Wendy's. It says right to work. With all those rights, why can't we have a right to housing, shelter? It's been a big problem in, well, all the world, but in the United States, we're supposed to be the richest country on this planet, and we have millions of people that are homeless. You can look at Greeley and even Evans and have a problem. And it's not as much in Evans as it is in Greeley, but it's starting towards that way as well. I've heard people say, well, Greeley's like little Denver. And I come to like Denver's like little San Francisco or Los Angeles. I also have here from Wells Way Home United Way a report, and I would like to give each one of you the report. Also in it is I headed opportunities for housing. I'm also on a committee called the Well Epstein Network on Disabilities, and we come up with some ideas, and I'm sure there's a lot more. This is also in here, and ideas of possible grants as well. Also, I put in there an article about millions of seniors struggle to survive. And it's just not seniors, but this is the article on. So I was just thought I'd bring to your attention and to what Mr. Reesberg said about AARP. I also have a report that they did some kind of study or impact and study in Greeley area, and they got a report in here as well as ratings in certain subjects like transportation, medical, and 3 or 4 other ones. I only have one of these, but it's very good what they reported to and their ratings. Maybe I can get you a copy next time I come. But I would like to give these.
Or if you can just bring them over there to the clerk, or we'll get those distributed out to us at the end of the meeting.
Oh, and also, too, I forgot one other thing. The county commissioners and maybe the city of Greeley, we're going to be going down to Colorado Springs to their mission. It's just not a mission. They have other programs. I just thought I'd tell you that. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to address city council on any item that is not on the agenda or of a public hearing? Seeing none? All right, we'll move on to the next item. Approval of the agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any changes to the agenda?
No.
All right,
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, consent agenda. Item number 1, approval of the October 18th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. Item number 2, approval of the October 21st, 2022 City Council special meeting minutes. Item number 3, consideration of ordinance number 781-22, 2023 budget appropriations, second reading. Item number 4, consideration of ordinance number 784-22 to zone parcels associated with the Mountain Cement annexation to industrial I-3, second reading.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Moving on, item, new business. Item number 5, consideration of approval of the site improvement agreement for 1112 40th Street Rush Event Center, and we'll hear from staff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At your last meeting on October 18th, you approved the special use permit application for property located at 1112 40th Street, known as the Rush Event Center. The last step in the land use review process for that project is what's before you this evening, which is consideration of the site improvements agreement. Here to describe that and outline the terms of that agreement is our senior city planner, Angela Snyder.
Angela Snyder, Community Development. So the Rush Event Center was approved by the council on October 18th via Resolution 35, 2022. It is for this site here. Their site improvements agreement includes 3 items. Finishing the sidewalk along 40th Street. As you can see in the picture, there's a gap in the sidewalk. Installation of 2 ADA compliant pedestrian crossings. That would be where it goes over their entrance and exit. And then replacement and installation of some irrigation and landscaping. Much of that's already there, but what is going in that's new. And so I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant's here as well if you'd like to talk to them.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from staff or the applicant?
I just have a quick question. What kind of time frame did we build into this agreement? It's probably my fault, but I missed it in there.
It looks like we have said that they have 2 years to put in the 5-foot sidewalk.
Okay.
They have 2 years to put in the ADA compliant pedestrian crossings. They have 1 year to do the landscaping on the fence on the roadside, and then on the outside of the fence. And nope, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Landscaping within the property fence is to be completed within 1 year, and then landscaping outside of the property fence will be completed within 3 years.
And there's going to be operational during this time?
Yes.
Okay, so I think sometime we may need to have an explanation as to why we have a requirement for landscaping and for streets and for ADA, as you know, sidewalks, when clearly someone needing those sidewalks wouldn't be able to use them. And then we allow someone, and we've done this in the past, we've allowed them to conduct their business, and then the allotted items don't get done, and then we have problems with compliance on them. I think we all know, in particular, the latest problem that we've had. So I just kind of would like to address that issue sometime in the future. I'm not really thrilled about doing the same thing in this circumstance. I'm sure that this business we won't have any problems with, but it is very concerning why we have requirements, and on some businesses we have them do the requirements before they're allowed to start their business, and then other businesses we allow to come in, do their business, and hope that the requirements are completed.
I'm sorry, I thought of one more question, so I do apologize. And this may be the way it's built into our code. So just if you don't mind humoring me, why is it 3 years for landscaping outside the fence and then 1 year inside? Is there a reason for that? Is that our code? Because with wanting, especially with us talking about 85 a lot and wanting it to look a lot better and whatnot, I'm just curious why we give 3 for the outside and 1 for the inside.
That was at the request of the applicant. In this case, he's very anxious to get started, as I'm sure you're all aware, and much of the landscaping on the inside is already there in some aspects, and he wanted to be able to fund the rest of the landscaping with monies made from operations.
Got it. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Anybody else have any additional questions, comments?
I just wanted to say that's, so I'm happy to have the business here. I'm glad that they're gonna do the business, but I am a no vote on the agreement just for that reason. I want them to have it be successful, but I also think that the time allotment is a little lengthy for me, so that's the only reason. I just wanted to explain it.
Councilmember Neal?
Yeah, I would echo Councilmember Spears' comments. She beat me to the punch on them. I've seen a lot, and we're still been messing with Tuscany for over 16 years because of lack of infrastructure being built first before they allowed buildings to be bought and sold. So I have concerns there too. I do feel that this applicant will fulfill his obligation to the city on this.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem, I know you're online. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, just a point of clarity here. So, it says the standard warranty period is 2 years, but did I hear that the landscaping outside of the fence is 3? I'm sorry, I got lost in the numbers there.
That I can see where that is confusing. Sometimes we get confused when we're discussing those interchangeably as well. So the letter of credit that is our guarantee of them completing the projects is good for 3 years. And then so they have to have everything done within that period, but then there's a warranty period that goes beyond that, correct? Yeah, that's my understanding. And then there's a 2-year warranty to make sure that everything stays.
Yep, I totally understand that now. That makes perfect sense. So basically, if they were to complete the outdoor landscaping or outdoor out of the fence landscaping, we'll say within the 3 years, from the time it's finished, there's then a 2-year warranty period on that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you for the clarity. I appreciate it. I think, I do think the applicant is eager to move forward. I think it will be advantageous to have it, up and going so that they can start to draw in some business and continue to improve, but I don't have any concerns.
I have to say I do kind of agree with Councilmember Spear and Councilmember Neal regarding that. We do make some exceptions for some businesses, but not others. And this is the fact, especially along the 85 corridor, where we are really pushing to do some beautification work along that area. 3 years seems like a little bit of a long time period to me. I can understand maybe 2, maybe even 18 months. I am kind of concerned about that 3 years, but I also understand the position, of getting the business up and running, bringing in revenue so you can do those projects and, and have those done in that time frame. But, I would like to see maybe there is some kind of standardization across the board where we're allowing one business to do A and another business that does B. So, but I mean, those are my concerns. But other than that, I respect where they're coming from, and I really do hope that they will fulfill that obligation in that time frame.
So I have a question. So during this time, we're gonna the event center is gonna be the one running, functioning at that moment, and then eventually all the other components are gonna you're gonna be working on those, but at least have the event center worked on. So in midst of all of that, you want the landscaping to be done, so at least you have like a nice area. So in midst of fixing the remainder, then the outside will catch up to the construction component. Is that kind of what's happening there? Just so I
Yeah.
understand the timeline.
Yeah, so, so the goal behind the whole thing is to get the event center up, going, generate revenue. That's the way it is. I mean, the place has been closed down for 14 years. We're trying to get something up and rocking and rolling and making this thing happen. The landscaping thing, I get it, and we're behind it, you know. But I think you can't lose sight of what you're gaining by us opening. And you can't be so blinded by trees and bushes and say, I'd rather have trees and bushes than a business open. And so what we're trying to do is just hit the middle somewhere and say, you can imagine just a gazillion things that you got to get done and get open and try to get all these things. And believe me, there are a lot more than I ever thought of. But that's the goal, is to get the event center open and the interior, basically the building itself, get it open, start working on the south end, the patio area, which would be a ton of landscape put in that effort right there. And then as we crawl into spring and stuff, that's where we'll start doing the amusement park side, where there's another ton of landscaping that's going to happen inside the park. And that's, I think, you know, we wanted a little bit of time to let's get the interior of the park up and running and make it look right, and then move to the sidewalk and the outside of the fence and all that kind of stuff. We could just to kind of phase it in to kind of make sense with how we're going to open and do all that stuff. But we are going to get it done, but we just want an opportunity to get it open and shake the dust off the boots a little, you know, and just kind of get the thing moving, and then we'll move forward from there. But it'll be a constant evolution. I mean, you can imagine over the next 3 years, we're going to be just constantly doing something with it. And the bumper boats will be something that'll fall in, the batting cages will fall in, and as we do that, there's landscaping that's associated with all that stuff too. So we're kind of trying to reserve a lot of the budget for the interior side of that, because it's the experience of the people that are in there to have that. And then as we get everything else going, I think it'll all work out in the end. I mean, our whole intention is to make this whole thing work and do the outside landscape. But yeah, to kind of give us a little bit of a gap here to kind of get the thing up and going.
No, yeah, I have no concerns, and I kind of figured that. I do understand we're eager to make 85 look beautiful, because it's kind of one of our corridors that, in essence, bring in people to our city. But I do love the fact that you're coming in and that it's a business and it's something that families can definitely partake in. But I appreciate you definitely explaining all that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
It says that the developer is responsible for replacement and installation of irrigation and landscaping. Does that include both inside and outside of the fence line?
Yeah. As far as the irrigation goes, so the way that thing's built, it's got a big loop all the way inside the fence. It's roughly 4 feet off the exterior fence all the way around. And the previous owners have had irrigation outside that fence that's kind of there already. So as we restore that irrigation loop and get all that ready, then it is set in place to do that kind of stuff. Now, along the 85 side, on the east side, the fence and the sidewalk is really narrow. There's not a lot of room there. So that's why we moved most of the landscaping on the east side of the property will be inside the fence instead of outside, because there's really relatively no room there. But the north side, where you see the other trees on the north side, a lot of those will be on the outside of the property, because there's room there. There's a space to go there. So.
Yeah, and that does help to add clarity. Thank you. I think part of my thought was, so when we're talking about the possible, I'll say, delay in the items outside of the fence, we're primarily talking about the compliance, the ADA compliance, pedestrian crossings, and the sidewalk. Is that correct?
Well, there's just what it is across, yeah, you got the little pointer there. Across the front of those trees in front of the parking lot, on the north side of the parking lot, there's that's where the sidewalk would go with the two handicap ramps going either side of the entrance or exit, both sides of that. I mean, it hasn't been there since 1998, basically, but so what we've agreed to is to get that in. I think that was within 2 years to get the sidewalk in, and the handicap ramps as well.
Okay, I apologize. I was just trying to think from a beautification standpoint, and to help ease it. And this is probably more for staff, but what are the requirements then outside the fence line? If there's not a lot of landscaping, are we required to have so many trees and shrubs and things?
Yes. We do have landscape design standards in the code, and so this plan that you have here shows that we do allow for some creativity. They're supposed to have so many trees per edge of their property. We do allow some creativity, so they have bunched some of their landscaping more to the north and along the 85 corridor for that gateway beautification impact. And we've required less, say by the batting cages, which are the furthest away from the public.
And those items are outside of the fence line?
Actually, most of them are inside of the fence line. There's very, very few items on this landscape plan that are actually outside of them. Like, I think it's just the trees and the bushes along 40th Street.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where my thought goes, is if most landscaping is inside and there's a delay, because the delay we're talking about is outside the fence line, that does make it a little bit easier. I would love to see prioritization in some way of those areas that are more visible, but I also understand like working your way through the batting cages and go-kart tracks and all of those sorts of things. So that actually does make this decision a little bit easier for me to know that that's all in the fence line. So I apologize that it took a while to connect the dots there. I appreciate it.
Can you just use the pointer and show me outside the fence line, please, and thank you?
This, I may ask the applicant to do it because sometimes I get mixed up on this map of what's an irrigation line and what's a fence line.
Do I have to have a license?
With that pointer?
That one, yeah, that's
Right
that
here.
picky pointer.
It's temperamental.
Push the red button.
So the outside would be right here, right here, right here. So a lot of this stuff that's happening, so these trees that are right here, or the landscape that'll happen here, there is space there, and even here we'll probably do some, it's not shown there, but we're planning on doing some landscaping here because there'll probably be a sign we'll apply for to put there. But the problem with this is right here is the sidewalk so close to the fence that there's just no space there. So this whole area here, that's why we kind of group things together here to kind of still give the visual from the highway back in, and then still allow some visibility from the highway to the go-kart track and not just, conceal it.
Right, and that's the thing, because I mean, it looks like you have like 5 trees there, 3 there, and then 4 trees there.
What did I do?
On 85, so I do see where you don't want to also cover the area, because what we want for you too is visibility.
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about trees and plants and whatnot, and weirdly enough, not along 40th at the north or right as they go in, but Highway 85 for me is a passion, and I understand 100% where you're coming from, but for me too, I look at it for a business, I want the outside to look good to get me to go in. Right. And so, yes, I want that draw from 85 to get me to come into your property. Yeah. So please, I'm not against, this business at all. It's just for me, the 3 years is really, really, really difficult for me to take because I mean, if there's not much outside the fence, at least on the Highway 85 side, why can't we do at least that part with, you know, the other, as you do it as you go? And leave the 40th up there with all those trees along there and that entrance, leave that extra time for you, because I'm with you on that. But like the Highway 85 side, if it is so small, that's my only thing. Why can't we just go ahead and do that in your first year, maybe year and a half even? You know what I mean?
Before you answer that, because I just want to add to that, what is your phase in? Because I mean, now that we have the site plan, I think that will provide better insight of how you're navigating this all, because it doesn't make sense to just do an area if that's not part of your phasing in. And I get that, because from a cost, perspective, like you want to make sure that you're doing things efficiently for you and that's, cost effective.
So, first thing with Tammy, so you're talking about this landscaping here, getting it done quicker?
Well, not particularly like the trees or anything, but outside the fence on the 85 side. You said it's really a small area between the sidewalk and the
There's
fence.
just like a little bit. It's like there's
there's
nothing to plant.
Yeah.
It's just sidewalk this much.
Okay, that's what I needed clarification on, because that's
Yeah.
what.
That's kind of why we moved all this stuff in here, because there's just no space for it.
Right.
So all of this stuff here is going to get done within the 2-year period, all this stuff right here. And honestly, this is the way I'm looking at it, right? So the stuff that's closest to people, I'm going to pay attention to. The stuff that's beyond people, kind of, sort of, then that gets done later.
Okay.
But the 85 stuff over here, if that's something we need to talk about, but this stuff here is going to be fairly quick right here, because the putt-putt is here. It's going to be open next spring.
Okay.
So all this stuff here is going to be done because of the putt-putt. This stuff will be done because of the go-karts.
That's the clarification I needed.
And then all of this stuff, there's some little stuff in through here that's just going to kind of straggle in, but the day, all of this outside north stuff, outside the fence that's going to happen there, we'll just take a little bit of time to get that in, but that's kind of how we're looking at the landscaping portion of it, is when you walk in the gate, I want it to be nice, and you guys want it to be nice, and so that's kind of how we're doing it.
Okay.
So there will be some little things that'll be dragging out. Now, phasing wise, to answer your question, so the putt-putt is this spring, the drift trikes, the kiddie track, that's all happening, plus the go-kart track, the event center, and then this is where we'll have the fence and the pavilion and the stage and all that. The beer garden will happen this year. Year 2, the bumper boats and the batting cage, I hope, will happen then. Year 3, in between this area, is kind of an unknown. We're talking ropes course, roller coaster, whatever. This is kind of out there. But that'll be kind of the third thing that we do there. Hopefully within the 3-year period, we can have this thing pretty much filled up. And there's still other spaces we could do stuff with, but we really want to try to kind of fill those areas in and kind of bring some more stuff. Age groups is another thing that you start thinking of, where if I do bumper cars, then everybody in here can go have fun, right? Plus their kids. Yeah. So that's the other consideration when we're looking at this area, is like, okay, what can fit a big age group and move them in? But phasing wise, that's how we're looking at doing it. And then bringing everybody in all at once, like hundreds of people at the same time, and buying tickets. We're going to run out of tickets.
There you go.
But anyway, that's what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Okay.
If there are no additional questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the site improvements agreement for Rush Event Center located at 1112 40th Street, and authorize the mayor to sign the development agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the site improvement agreement for Rush Event Center located at 1112 40th Street, and authorize the mayor to sign the development agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, item number 6, consideration of approval of site improvement agreement for the project located at 4625 Industrial Parkway, Tatum LLC. Hope I got that right. Go ahead from staff.
Mayor and council members, this is another site improvements agreement for a different property, this one at 4625 Industrial Parkway, that you approved a special use permit for this property on October 18th, and this is the final step in that land use review process as well. Here to describe that further is Angela Snyder, a senior city planner.
Angela Snyder, the Community Development Department. So as stated, this was approved. The special use permit for this property was approved on October 18th. And so now we have the site improvements agreement before you. That agreement covers the sidewalk and ADA compliant crossing along Industrial Parkway and some landscaping and irrigation. This agreement, oh, there we go. This agreement is also in 2 phases. The first phase is everything that's along the road. So putting in all the landscaping, and I apologize that this is the outdoor storage plan and not the landscaping plan. But it is to put in the landscaping along here and then address this natural area buffer right here. And then phase 2, as they expand, right now the outdoor storage only goes to right here on the property. So as they expand down as part of phase 2, then they will do the rest of the site at that time. The agreement has phase 1 is to be done with this agreement, and then we've actually elected, let's see, that they will have to come back and talk to us about the phase 2 because they're not planning to put in this outdoor storage at all right away. It's more of a future phasing idea. But this landscaping and the natural area that they've included in phase 1 is sufficient for their landscape requirement in this industrial area. So that's all I have. The applicant is here.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks. Any questions or comments for staff for the applicant?
I have none.
I do, but
Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to see if other people have any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Castle, do you have any questions, comments?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Go ahead.
This is the property that we had talked about the last time, that they needed to have some improvements done before they could rent the place.
It was the same thing. They needed to have this agreement approved and the site plan recorded. They do have 3 years to put in the landscaping, and they are allowed to operate during that time.
Okay, the same issue for me tonight, so.
Any other additional questions, comments?
I have none.
If none, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the site improvements agreement for 4625 Industrial Parkway and authorize the mayor to sign the site improvement agreement.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve the site improvement agreement for 4625 Industrial Parkway and authorize the mayor to sign the site improvement agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. All right, next item number 7, public hearing, consideration of ordinance number 785-22 to amend several sections of Title 18 of the City of Evans Municipal Code to add a definition of taxidermy to identify in which zone districts taxidermy may be located and to add additional land use permit application requirements and criteria for approval for taxidermy land uses. And I will open the public hearing and we'll hear from staff.
Yes, Mayor and Council, at your last work session, there was a discussion that staff had with you about taxidermy and whether it was could be a use allowed under some circumstances in Evans. The direction given at that time was that taxidermy as a home occupation for small game was something that you would consider, and that you would consider taxidermy being permissible in certain other zone districts, subject to a site plan review process. So what you have before you is an ordinance that does that, and I'll let Community Development Director Ann Bess Johnson kind of further describe this ordinance that's before you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Reedy, members of City Council. So, what we are proposing, we listened to the comments that you provided to us last time after speaking with the state chapter of the National Taxidermist Association. And doing review on the American Planning Association, how they define taxidermy. What's in your packet tonight are several different phases of how we implement something in the code, and it's never perfect, but we try to get it right as best we can. So on the screen and in your packets, this is the proposed definition, the business of preparing, stuffing, and mounting the skins of animals to make them appear lifelike. Pretty simple definition. We are proposing to add that into the definition section, which is found in 1803.010. And then we are proposing to make amendments to Chapter 1804, which defines what those different zone districts are, as well as Chapter 1805 regarding prohibited home occupations. So right now, taxidermy is listed as a prohibited home occupation, but what we are proposing is in the ag and the residential zone district, in the estate zone district, and R1 single family, that taxidermy of small game as defined by Colorado Parks and Wildlife or other mounts of similar size of small game could be considered a home occupation in ag and residential R1 and R1E. And then in commercial, industrial, and US 85 overlay, they could be considered, you could have any size animal. And so it's not just one animal, it would be, you could have a multitude, you could do a diorama, as long as the animals that you're working on don't exceed that small game definition that's with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And so in the commercial, industrial, and 85 overlay, you could do large game by special use or by site plan. And then in addition to Chapter 18, again, is just requesting additional application requirements for home occupations and site plans, such as that nuisance mitigation plan and the waste handling plan, just to make sure that nuisance conditions don't arise by this additional type of work. And that concludes staff's presentation for this particular code change. And I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you. Any questions for staff?
I don't have any. It was pretty straightforward for me.
I have a question. Good evening. What assurance we have in the business would be compliance with operating that size game?
So the city of Evans could receive a complaint from a neighbor, and we would go out and we would investigate to see if that complaint was valid. We have a pretty solid neighborhood services team, and they do respond to complaints. So, or, alleged complaints. So they would go out and they would inspect it. If somebody had a home occupation permit to do mounts and they found that it exceeded the size, then they would lose their home occupation permit. They could potentially have their business license revoked. So that would be the process.
So you are relying on the nearby residents to use as a court enforcement? That's the plan?
The city, if somebody wants to have a home occupation for taxidermy, they fill out a business license and they fill out a home occupation permit, and that home occupation permit will have standards that they agree to abide by. Then if they don't abide by that, the city of Evans does not inspect all home occupations. We don't inspect all land use permits on a monthly or even annual basis. we rely on complaints for compliance. If there would be a complaint for compliance, then we would go out and inspect.
It'd be just like if you had a smoke shop and,
Yeah,
and yeah.
I understand that part. All right, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem, any questions for staff?
No, none from me, thank you.
Any other additional questions, staff? All right, because this is a public hearing, I would ask if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to come up and address City Council that's in favor of this, please step forward. There's. Looks like we might have somebody. Oh. Yeah, come up to the podium, see sure.
Hello, I'm Lauren, owner of Twin Rivers Bird Taxidermy. I'm here to present my work and to prove that taxidermy is not as gross as people think. It's pretty straightforward, pretty clean process, pretty quick. I have competed at 6 shows in the last 3 years across 5 states, including the national show last year. I won many awards, including a double best of category in the professional division, so I do take my work very seriously.
So that's your work there that you did?
Yes, sir.
That's actually very
Impressive.
Very impressive, yes. It's fantastic looking, wow. All right, thank you. Sir, are you care to make any comments?
Yeah, I was actually going to answer a question that Brian had about how are they going to find out. She has a very specific license to birds. So if somebody was doing large game, they would have to get a very specific license. As a matter of fact, I think Lauren said they have to get 2 different licenses. So not only do they risk whatever, losing their license, all that kind of stuff with you guys, but they could lose it nationally as well. So it's in their best interest to keep a log. Lauren keeps a very accurate log of the bird, what type it is. I mean, she could probably give you more detail on that, but it's pretty extensive. She's been contacted by I'm not sure what's the name of that place, the conservatory nearby?
The Putter Learning Center, I have repaired and cleaned their entire bird taxidermy collection in their building a couple of years ago.
Wow.
So the funny thing is, like, she's 21 and they're trusting her with things that typically in this profession you find that the people that are good at it are in their late 50s and 60s, and it's typically predominantly male dominated. She does a great job. Her work is very atypical. Everybody knows bad taxidermy. She has the ability to convey like so much emotion out of the animals that she does, and she's been doing that since she was really, really little. Be it like stick drawings or whatever, it's really unique. So this is very atypical work, really interesting. But she keeps a log of everything they have to, but she keeps really good records of all of that. So I hope that answers that question.
Yes, I have another question. What preferred method would you be using to dispose of the carcasses and the
Yeah, I don't think you were here at the last meeting, were you?
Yeah, I was.
You were? Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
again,
Yeah,
somebody
you were.
jokingly but very accurately said that you throw away more trash at Thanksgiving than
Right.
she would do with maybe, I think 30 to 60 birds produces that like one grocery bag halfway filled. So typically double bagging it, putting it out only when the trash gets picked up, and then it's typically refrigerated until that happens. The last thing you want with mounts like this is moths or any kind of pests destroying the mounts. So it's in her best interest to do that, because if these mounts get to a client and the wings start falling apart because they're being eaten and you can't detect it, that's not good for business, obviously, or her reputation, or, infestation in somebody's house.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Lauren did bring a sample of what is sent to her before its mount, so that
Oh,
you can see the
okay.
type of waste that
Oh.
comes with the hide or the skin.
Okay, perfect.
And the skin you're looking at is fully processed, fully dried. With a melt, you would have a skin that's not, like, it would dry over just a few days.
And I should have taken a picture. We had a client, some birds arrived at her grandparents' house today, and it basically was, imagine a Coleman cooler taped up with birds and dry ice and all that. So they come really ready to go, even though there's very little to.
There's no grease on that.
Say, it looks, if I remember correctly, all the entrails and everything are already removed by the time they come to.
Did it make you want to put your foot in like a little slipper?
You know, but, yeah, so if there is waste, for me, from what I've seen, it's not, you know, anything that anything could really eat.
Yeah. And then obviously refrigerating keeps it from breaking down, because a lot of secondary and tertiary decomposers need the smell of something rotting.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be a factor. And she's done this out of her grandparents' house and mine over on the west side of town before. She moved to Grand Junction for a couple of years, so there was no issues at either of those locations. So.
I appreciate this.
Yeah,
It gives me
Yes,
a different perspective.
I'm very impressed. Young
Yeah.
lady like yourself took up this type of art. I wish I would have took a little more of it myself, but.
In the conventions that they hold at each state, they're something to just, like, they're eye openers. The pieces that even other taxidermists create are absolutely amazing. You get some big water scenes and all sorts of stuff. We have the World Show even. So we get people all over the world that contribute their piece.
Yep. All right, let me finish out the public hearing so we can have discussion and any additional comments. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak against the item? If so, please come forward. You want to speak against? All right, come on up. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Steve Teets in Greeley. This might sound like a dumb question, but you know, are they're dead before, and you go out and shoot them, or what?
I really don't hunt. My clients have licenses, and they must fill out legal documents to surrender the bird in my care for the duration of the process until they get it received back in their home.
Because you know, I'm a animal lover, and a lot of our animals are, what I've heard, could be disappearing, and it's very important to have each animal for many reasons. And so I just kind of sad to see that. But
I understand your point, but the animals that are hunted legally are controlled by the state. They issue daily and overall possession limits. Certain species you'll have to draw tags for. So everything is closely monitored by the state and nationally. So that way each species is not over-harvested. There's also, even in the brochures, certain daily limits of certain species. So hunters are supposed to be responsible of their take every day for each daily and overall possession limits, which is usually set to a 3-day limit on waterfowl. And you cannot exceed over that limit unless the birds are consumed or used otherwise.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to speak for or against this?
Good evening, Council. Stephen Grant, 2405 Dock Drive, Evans, Colorado. I wish to speak for this. I've known a couple of taxidermists personally and found their work to be both humane and sanitary. And since this is, you know, again, extremely professional handling of an art form, I believe it would be a welcome addition to Evans. We've been discussing tonight some of the rigors that involve growth, both with the event center as well as with this. And it sounds like two excellent opportunities for Evans to be both diverse and showcased through what we are looking at. So I'm speaking for this. I have started myself 3 businesses, planted 3 different churches. So I understand the rigors of starting business as well as churches, nonprofits. And I believe that any opportunity like this that we can give, and as long as all the sanitary issues and those types of things are satisfied, I speak for this. I believe it's a great opportunity.
Okay, anybody else in the audience? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and comments from council.
I just want to say I'm impressed by your art, in the fact that you're young and that you're doing something that is kind of, as atypical to the to your age group. And I love when someone's outside of their box doing something that they love, and their craft is phenomenal. And clearly you've won awards. So, and you,
thank you.
To me, you sound like such an expert, answering questions, and also the fact that you're helping, the Poudre
Learning Center.
The center, with their taxidermy, area. That speaks volumes of you and your profession. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Any other additional discussion, comments?
Congratulations on all your hard work, especially by your age. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
So, yes, good job.
I just want to say I'm in total favor. I think I really wish I could have been there in person tonight to see your work and what you have to offer, but really appreciate you coming in and bringing the depth of knowledge that you have. It's very helpful when making a decision, and it's much easier to make that decision when people are so well-versed and knowledgeable and you know exactly what you're getting. So very well done. I think this is a welcomed addition, and thank you to staff for bringing this to us.
I want to also say that it's just very impressive that a young person has the ambition to do a skill like this. As a hunter myself, and a person who is dabbling in the art of tanning, hide tanning, I really do have a in-depth appreciation for what you're doing. And I just would really want to encourage you to continue it, and I hope that you are able to be successful, and hope that the city can help you along with giving the permission for taxidermists to do their business here in the city.
Thank you.
I have to agree with everything that was just mentioned, and I really wish you success and everything. Your work, from what I can tell from where I'm sitting, is absolutely phenomenal, and I wish you nothing but success as you continue to go forward in your craft. So,
thank you.
Looking forward to hopefully passing this motion here if we have one.
Yep. I move to approve ordinance number 785-22 on first reading.
Second.
I have a motion to second to approve ordinance number 785-22 on first reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item number 8, consideration of resolution number 38-2022, declining participation in the state of Colorado's paid family and medical leave insurance program pursuant to CRS sections 8-13.3-522. And though this is not a public hearing, I won't hear from staff, but I will allow for comment on this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. This is a follow-up to your October 18th work session. Assistant City Attorney Drew Lyman is here to discuss the Family Act, the Colorado's Paid Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program, and your consideration of Evans' withdrawal or declining participation in that program.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. This is Resolution 38-2022, which will cause the city to decline participating in the state-run paid Family Leave Act insurance program. Under the statute, municipalities have the ability to opt out of the program. When I looked at the most recent numbers, 91 Colorado municipalities have decided to opt out. 3 have affirmatively decided that they would opt in. Under the regulations that govern this, the city sent notification to city employees to obtain comments on whether to opt out or opt in, and I forwarded those comments to you today prior to the hearing, and also invited under the regulation employees to participate in the hearing if they choose to do so. But staff has reviewed this, including the employee review team and the leadership team, and the conclusion is that the costs of the Family Act substantially outweigh any benefits that would be derived by the city from participating in the Family Act, and that individual employees are able to decide to participate on their own at no additional cost to them. And so with that, staff, I conclude my remarks and can open it up for any questions, but we recommend approving the resolution to decline participation. Thank you.
Does anybody on council have any questions for staff?
I have no questions.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No, no questions.
All right, no, this is not a public hearing. I will have the option for any staff member that would like to come up and address council on this item, either for or against it. I don't see anything. Although we did receive the email from you, so seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the comments, and I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 38-2022 to decline participation by the city of Evans in Colorado's Family Act program.
I second.
Took it a while. It's okay. I have a motion, a second, to approve resolution number 38-2022 to decline participation by the city of Evans in the Colorado's FAMLI Act program. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, item number 9, consideration of a license and utility crossing agreement for 2 DCP utility crossings of the Evans Town Ditch, and we will hear from staff.
Yes, Mayor and council members, this is the first of 2 items before you that are considerations of utility crossings of the Evans Ditch. The first one is for 2 DCP utility crossings. City Engineer Mark Oberschmidt is here to describe this a little bit further. And the reason for this coming to you is that it is considered similar to an easement. This is a license and utility crossing agreement. So all of those, according to our charter, do come to you for approval.
Thank you, Randy. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As Randy said, DCP Midstream has in the plans to install gas lines in the vicinity. And in order to do that, they're going to cross underneath the ditch at 2 locations towards the west end of town as described in the memo. We have a standard crossing agreement which has been used in the past, and it wasn't modified for this particular other than adding in the specifics as to DCP, the dates and everything. We have received the check for $1,500, which is the fee that was established for the crossing agreement. They are going to horizontally, directionally drill the pipe under the ditch. We are working with them to do the ditch crossing when the ditch isn't running, preferably, so that if there is any incident of something where the ditch were to be exposed, we would be able to repair it quickly. Because if they do it when the ditch is running, we won't be able to see it until after the fact. But if they do happen to do it when the ditch is running, we would plan on scheduling a meeting to go out there with them after the ditch stopped running and inspect the area where the ditch was crossed to see if there was any problems. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for staff?
I have none.
I think Mark just answered my question, was when they were going to do this, preferably when the ditch is out.
Yes.
Straightforward.
Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem? Oh, sorry.
Do they have a
I
time?
have no questions.
Pardon?
Do they have a timeline established already for?
They had said they'd like to do it before the ditch is running, but they don't have a definitive schedule. And I've told them that if they would like to do it when the ditch is not running, that we're going to have to schedule a time after the ditch stops, or when the ditch is running, after the ditch stops, and go and inspect it to make sure there wasn't a problem. But if you looked at the exhibits, the profile is so deep that the likelihood that is going to create a problem with the ditch is very little.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no additional questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the license and utility crossing agreement with DCP Midstream for their 2 proposed crossings of the Evanstown Ditch and authorize the mayor's signature on the agreement.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the license and utility crossing agreement with DCP Midstream for their 2 proposed crossings of the Evanstown Ditch and authorize the mayor to signature on the agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next item number 10, consideration of a license and utility crossing agreement with Public Service Company of Colorado for a utility crossing of the Evanstown Ditch.
Okay, so XL, Public Service Company, they're looking to do the same thing a little further east, just east of County Road 394 where it crosses the Big T. Same process. The only difference is I don't have the check in hand, so once we have the agreement, it's going to sit in the office until I have the check in hand. They told me they had the check on Friday, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's the mail.
If there are no questions or comments, I would entertain.
Well, wait a minute.
Good.
So this brings up a question. What are they planning on servicing?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think they have some lines they're trying to service in Dos Rios, but I don't know the answer to that question.
They're just not going to be running
They're not running lines willy-nilly.
lines just to be running lines. I mean, they obviously want to be servicing something, so I just want to know, I mean, if they're going to be, I don't know, servicing something that's not desirable, I mean, we probably want to keep an eye on that.
Okay, I will remember to ask that question. I can ask that question if you want to.
Well, it's going to be too late after we say go ahead.
Well, yeah, I
mean,
understand that.
they could be, doing a nuclear, bomb station or something, and we're saying yes.
I think all the oil and gas companies are doing drilling around the area, and what their plan is, he refers to this as the Chalk Bluff, Mesa de Chalk Bluffs now. What the extent of that is, it's beyond Evans. It goes out into Weld County. I know that much, but what it's all servicing, I didn't get into the details on that because I was concerned about the impact to Evans and the Evans towns in particular.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we end up building something around that area, are we going to be able to connect into it then?
That I don't know. We'd have to ask them at the time we try to apply.
So is this going to prohibit us from building anything over here if we want to?
It would prohibit putting anything over the top of it, but the easement, the crossing itself wouldn't be that wide.
Yeah, well, I'm just cautious about throwing something out there and then later on saying, oh, shoot, we can't build anything or put anything there because now we've got a gas line and now we've got a utility line there.
And they are obtaining easements from wherever they're crossing private property, obviously, so they have to obtain easements so they know where the pipe is actually going. The only time that gets complicated is when you get out on large farm properties.
Yeah, I don't know. If I don't have any more information, I kind of actually regret okaying the last one, but I'm just gonna keep out of okaying things that I don't know more about.
All right, if there are no additional questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval of license and utility crossings agreement with Public Service Company of Colorado for a proposed crossing of the Evanstown Ditch and authorize the mayor's signature on the agreement.
Second.
I have a motion, a second to approve approval of a license and utility crossing agreement with Public Service Company of Colorado for proposed crossing of the Evanstown Ditch and authorize the mayor's signature on the agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes 6-1. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, reports, city manager.
Just a brief comment, a thank you to the community for some very successful Halloween weekend events. There was a trunk or treat, dinner and a movie at the Riverside Library and Conference Center on Friday night, followed by another trunk or treat with literally hundreds of kiddos here Sunday afternoon, sponsored by the police department. So plenty of sugar distributed in the community on behalf of the city this weekend. And on the heels of that, it's time to start thinking about the holidays. I did put on your calendars today the holiday lighting ceremony, 6 to 8 p.m. on the day following Thanksgiving. That's Friday, November 25th. So mark that on your calendars, and we'd encourage the community to turn out for that. The lights are being installed as we speak. So.
Yes, they are. All right, great, thank you. All right, city attorney.
I don't have anything to report except that our city attorney, Scott Krob, is happily in Fiji right now, still taking calls from the city from the Atoll Islands, and maybe we can follow him on Instagram if we get the invitation. We'll see.
Nice.
Nice, very nice. I know, I asked if he had any stowaway compartment, and he didn't, so. All right, next item on the agenda, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address city council on any item?
Good thing I don't visit very much. My name is Steve Teets. I'm in Greeley. I just have one question. On the Greeley-Evans Transit, I'd like to know what portion that the city of Evans contributes. And I also believe that your residents ain't getting the full capacity of what you pay for. And I'd just like to know how much, if all possible, because I'd like to see the bus system here in Evans improve. Thank you.
I could answer that if you'd like.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a $239,000 contribution that the city will be making next year. Pays for about 8% of the service. Yeah.
All right.
Good evening again, Stephen Grant, Evans residents. After sitting back here and saying nothing for so many weeks, I feel like I'm talking too much tonight. A couple of items. Number one, the beautification project on 37th Street is beautiful and it's wonderful. It runs past our house. I do have one guarded concern, and it is that I have picked up some rocks out of the street on 37th Street that have just been strewn out there and could hit cars. We've had rock thrown at our fence, and that could have been due to a political sign or something like that. But, you know, just paying attention to that. So just wanted to throw that out there. The other thing that I wanted to do was also thank the city staff. We have non-potable water for the Willowbrook subdivision, and we have had tons and tons of trouble this summer and throughout this irrigation season with a lot of clogging the lines with issues. And I've talked to people in Tuscany and other areas, and they've had their battles with it too. But I know that the non-potable team, this is their first year working with it, and they've been really valiant in trying to deal with it. We'll have to see what happens next year, because this year was really difficult with algae and stuff clogging the water lines, and so we would have to look at even totally changing out our sprinkler system to a different type of sprinkler if this continues. And we had this happen about 15 years ago with the Willowbrook subdivision, and then they got a handle on it and really dealt with it. And I know it's the first year on this one, but I just wanted to give a shout out to the city team on non-potable on this, because even though we've had troubles, they've been very responsive, and they've really tried to push through it. So I just wanted to say a public thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, and no additional comments, I will meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Amanda. I hope you guys feel better.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
All right.